Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering draft video. It's Al here with you, and this is how to draft Lorwyn Eclipsed. The new set is dropping this weekend for pre-release and next week online on Magic Arena. I'm here to break down my draft strategy, pick order, and each and every archetype for you. Let's get straight into it. As always, you can like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. It helps a huge amount, and it's totally free to do, so I appreciate everyone who does so. Starting with the early picks here, we're looking for commons and uncommons that excel in the following criteria. Flexibility, meaning they can fit into multiple decks. Rate, meaning you're getting good value for the mana you're spending. Power level, you want powerful cards, of course. Curve, which usually just means cheaper cards, cards that fit into your mana curve. And synergy, cards that work well with the best cards in the format and the best strategies in the format. Of course, you're going to be taking your rares and mythics above all of these, but we're just looking at commons and uncommons today. So we're going to start with the premium removal. Premium removal is sort of my benchmark in each and every set for rating all the other cards. These are efficient, easy to cast, and usually have no conditions attached to them. Few non-rares will be picked ahead of these cards. In white, we've got Pyrrhic Strike, 2 and a white for an instant. As an additional cost, you may Blight 2, which means to put 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature you control. You can choose one, but if you paid the extra cost, if you blighted, you could choose both of these. You can destroy an artifact or enchantment and or destroy target creature with mana value 3 or greater. That's the part we really like about this card. We've also got Liminal Hold, 3 and a white for an enchantment. Comes down, exile something until it leaves, and you gain 2 life. In blue, we've got Wanderwine Farewell, 5 blue. For a sorcery, it's got Kindred, which means it has an actual creature type associated with it. In this case, it's Merfolk, which matters in this set. Convoke, of course, means that your creatures can help to cast the spell by tapping to pay for a generic mana or a mana of their color towards the spell. And you, for 7 mana, you return 1 or 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hands. And then if you control a Merfolk, you create a 1/1 Merfolk token for each permanent returned this way. So hopefully you're getting 2 there. Blue also has that common Temporal Cleansing, 3 and a blue for a sorcery with Convoke. It says the owner of target non-land permanent puts it onto into their library, second from the top or on the bottom. Black's got Blight Rot, 2 and a black for an instant to put 4 -1/-1 counters on target creature. Nameless Inversion is 1 and a black for a kindred instant with Changeling, meaning it counts as all creature types, which is quite handy in this format. It says target creature gets +3, -3, and loses all creature types until end of turn. So this could be a efficient instant speed kill spell, or sometimes you might pump a creature of yours that's got 4 or more toughness and get in for a lot of damage. Black also has Bog Slither's Embrace, 1 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost, you have to blight 1 or pay 3 extra mana, and you get to exile target creature. Red's got Seer, 1 and a red for an instant, deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. All right, now we'll look at the premium rate cards. These are cards that are giving you a lot of power and or value for the mana you're spending. They are early picks taken at or maybe slightly above the premium removal that we just looked at. In white, we've got Klaken Festival, 2 and a white for a Kithkin enchantment. When it enters, you get 2 Kithkin tokens, and you can pay 5 to make a Kithkin token later on, as many times as you want. Next is Moonlit Lamenter, 2 and a white for a 2/5 Treefolk Cleric. It enters with a -1/-1 counter on it, so it enters as a 1/4, but you can pay 1 and a white and remove a counter from this creature to draw a card. So really great rate just on its face as a sort of a 5-mana 2/5 that draws you a card, and you can pay in installments. And of course, if you can find ways to put more counters on this, which we'll look at later on, it gets even better. In blue, we've got Rhymekin Recluse. This is 2 and a blue for a 3/2 elemental. When it enters, you return up to 1 other target creature to its owner's hand. This is probably the best uncommon in the whole format, so keep an eye out for this one. Glamour Gifter is 1 and a blue for a 1/2 fairy with flash and flying. When it enters, up to 1 other target creature becomes a 4/4 and gains all creature types. Unwelcome Sprite is a 1 and a blue 2/1 flying fairy. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you surveil 2. In black, we've got Boggart Mischief. It's a bit of a build around, but I like this one. This is 2 and a black for a goblin enchantment. When it enters, you may blight 1. If you do, you get 2 1/1 goblin tokens. And whenever a goblin creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. I've also got Iron Shield Elf. 1 and a black for a 3/1 elf. Has the text, discard a card. This creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and you tap it. Typically a really powerful effect. In the past, we'll see if it holds up in today's limited environment. In red, we've got Flame Braider, 1 and a red for a 2/2 elemental. You can tap it to add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend only to cast elemental spells or activate abilities of elemental sources. Sourbred Auntie is 2 red for a 4/3 goblin, and when it enters, you may blight 2. If you do, you get 2 1/1 goblin creature tokens. Stingslinger is 2 and a red for a 3/3 goblin. You can pay 1 and a red and tap it, and blight 1 to deal 2 damage to each opponent. And as we'll see, blight can be a bit of an upside, for example, with that Treefolk that we just looked at. Green has Dundulin Weaver. This is 1 and a green for a 2/1. When it enters, if you control 3 or more creatures, you can return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Good early in the Kithkin deck that wants to put a lot of creatures into play, and good later on to pick up one of your better creatures that has died. We also have Pummeler for Hire, 4 and a green for a 4/4 Vigilance Reach Ward 2. It's a giant. When it enters, you gain X life, where X is the greatest power among giants you control. So gaining 4 at a baseline, which is really quite good. There's just a lot here for only 5 mana. In multicolor, we've got some of our Signpost uncommons, which we'll look at more in depth with the archetypes. We've got Boggart Curse Crafter, black-red for a 2/3 Death Touch Goblin. Whenever another goblin you control dies, this deals 1 damage to each opponent. Deep Channel Duelist, white-blue for a 2/2 Merfolk. At the beginning of your end step, untap target Merfolk you control, and it pumps your other Merfolks. Eclipsed Kithkin is green-white hybrid for a 2/1. When it enters, you look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a Kithkin Forest or Plains and put it into your hand. Just a ton of rate there for only 2 mana. Morkant's Loyalist is 1 black-green for a 3/2 elf warrior. Other elves you control get +1/+1, and when this dies, you get an elf back from your graveyard to your hand. Finally, Thoughtweft Lieutenant, green-white for a 2/2 Kithkin. Whenever this or another Kithkin you control enters, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. So those are your premium rate cards. Now we'll take a step down to what I call the good removal. These are still high picks, but other top cards are probably going to be taken over these, like the ones we just looked at. But these are sort of your, above average removal spells, and that's sort of the benchmark for these cards. Spiral into Solitude is 1 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature can't attack or block, and you can pay 1 and a white and blight 1 and sacrifice this aura to exile the enchanted creature. Blossom Bind is 1 and a blue for an enchantment aura. When it enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature can't become untapped and can't have counters put on it. Swat Away is 2 blue for an instant, costs 2 less. If a creature is attacking you, the owner of target spell or creature puts it on their choice of the top or bottom of their library. Very efficient one there in a more defensive deck. Black's got Requiting Hex, single black for an instant. As an additional cost, you may blight 1. Destroy target creature with mana value 2 or less, and if you blighted, you gain 2 life. Not bad. Red's got Boulder Dash, 1 and a red for a sorcery, deals 2 damage to any target and 1 damage to any other target. And also Cinder Strike, single red, deal 2, but if you blight 1, it deals 4 instead. Only to a creature. Tweeze is 2 and a red for an instant, deals 3 damage to any target. You may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. In green, we've got Assert Perfection, 1 and a green for sorcery. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn and deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. Pitiless Fist is 3 and a green for an enchantment aura. When it enters, enchanted creature fights up to 1 target creature an opponent controls, and this creature in question gets +2/+2. All right, and so sort of along with these medium to good removal spells are the above rate cards. So these are not the best cards in the set, but again, I think they're just sort of better than average and cards you're going to want to have your eye out for early-ish in the draft. So we're looking at Encumbered Regery, 1 and a white for a 5/4, but it comes in with 3 -1/-1 counters on it. So it comes in as a 2/1. Whenever it becomes tapped, while it has a -1 counter on it, you remove a -1 counter from it. So each time it attacks or each time it convokes something, it's getting bigger and bigger. Thoughtweft Imbuer is 3 and a white for a 0/5 Kithkin. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of Kithkin you control. I really like these effects. Just turns your wide board into every creature's kind of a must answer. This got 5 toughness. I think it's going to be pretty difficult to kill. So we'll see how well it does. Wanderbrine Trapper is single white for a 2/1 Merfolk. You can pay 1, tap this, and another untapped creature you control to tap target creature and opponent controls. Lots of tapping going on here. But 1 mana 2/1 is great early, obviously, and the tap ability is excellent late. Flock Imposter is 2 and a white for a 2/2 changeling with flash and flying. When it enters, return up to 1 other target creature you control to its owner's hand. Save something from removal, reset an ETB, you know the drill there. Blue's got Omni Changeling, 3 blue for a 0/0 Changeling with Convoke, and it enters as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, including something your opponents may have. So I really like the fact that this can come down for cheaper than 5, and being able to clone stuff on the other side of the battlefield tends to make these types of effects better than usual. 10 Yufel Rhyme Speaker is 3 and a blue for a 2/4 elemental. Whenever you cast a spell with mana 4 or greater, you draw a card. Kind of the build around for elementals. And Shine Strikers, 4 blue for a 3/3 elemental with flying and Vivid. Vivid references how many colors amongst permanents you control you have. When this creature enters, draw cards equal to the number of colors among permanents you control. Black's got Creekwood Safe Right, 1 and a black for a 5/5, but it enters with 3 -1/-1 counters on it, so it's a 2 mana 2/2. The beginning of your end step, if there's an elf in your graveyard, you get to remove a -1/-1 counter from this creature. Grave Shifter is 3 and a black for a 2/2 changeling. When it enters, you get a creature back from your graveyard to hand. And Nightmare Sower is 3 and a black for a 2/3 flying lifelink fairy. Whenever you cast a spell during opponent's turn, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Could even be one of yours if you really want to do that. In red, we've got Explosive Prodigy, 1 and a red for a 1/1 elemental sorcerer with Vivid. When it enters, it deals X damage to target creature, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Green's got Blossoming Defense, single green for an instant. Classic trick here, +2/+2, and hexproof until end of turn. Very powerful. Liss Alana Dignitary is 1 and a green for a 2/3 elf. As an additional cost, you behold an elf or pay 2 extra mana. So to behold an elf, you choose an elf you control or reveal an elf from your hand. So you'll see behold this type of creature or that type of creature in this set. That's what that means. Liss Alana Dignitary could tap to add green, but only if there's an elf in your graveyard. Morkan's Eyes is 1 and a green for an elf enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. You can pay 4 green and sacrifice it to make X 2/2 elf tokens, where X is the number of elf cards in your graveyard. It's a bit of a nice build around there. And we've got Prisma Basher, 4 green for a 6/6 trample. It's got Vivid. When it enters, up to X target creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of colors amongst permanents you control. So you want that to be 3 to be really happy with it. But solid card. All right, and we've got this group of Eclipsed cards. We already saw the Kithkin one, which I think is a cut above these. These all do kind of the same thing. They cost hybrid mana, and they come down and look at the top 4 cards of your library, and you can take their creature type or one of the color of lands that goes with them. So all of these are quite powerful, really great cards to take early in the draft, as they could fit into, sort of any. For example, the Boggart can fit into any black deck theoretically, although black's a bit tough, or any red deck if you can do red. And of course, they fit into their home archetype quite nicely. We've also got Noggle Robber. This is 1 green-red hybrid for a 3/3 Noggle. When it enters or dies, you get a treasure token. Nice one there. Reaping Willow, 1 white-black hybrid, white-black hybrid, white-black hybrid. So 4 total mana for a 3/6 Treefolk with lifelink. Enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. And you can pay 1 and a white-black hybrid, removing 2 counters from it to return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate as a sorcery. So this is another kind of build-around-y card, but I think it is quite powerful. Voracious Tome Skimmer is 3 blue-black hybrid manas, so 3 mana total for a 2/3 fairy with flying. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you may pay 1 life. If you do, draw a card. And finally, as our colorless card here, we've got Evolving Wilds, the classic land you can tap and sacrifice to search for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped. This is the only fixing land at common in this set, so I think most of the time you're going to be in a pretty tight 2-color deck, but if you are looking to splash, this is one of the only ways to do it outside of a couple of cards we'll look at in a little bit. So keep your eyes out for Evolving Wilds in packs that don't have any necessarily exciting cards in them. Okay, we'll look at the archetypes now. This set's a little bit different than what we typically see. There are 5 main 2-color archetypes in the set, and there are 5 sort of lesser supported color pairs, or in my opinion, there's only really maybe 2 other ones that actually have the support to be their own decks. So a bit less options in the draft in Lorwyn Eclipsed. And let's look at the 5 main archetypes here. We'll start with white-blue Merfolk, your signpost uncommon. Deep Channel Duelist, the card we already looked at here, 2 mana 2/2. Your other Merfolk get +1/+1, and you get to untap a Merfolk on your end step. Eclipsed Marrow is your hybrid card, and Marrow Sky Swimmer is your hybrid common. 3 blue-white hybrid for a 2/2 Merfolk with Convoke. It's got flying and vigilance, and when it enters, you create a 1/1 white and blue Merfolk creature token. So the mechanic here for Merfolk is Convoke, which we've already talked about. Creatures can help to pay Convoke costs, and many of the Merfolk will give a bonus when they become tapped. Look for cards with Convoke, such as Lofty Dreams, Omni Changeling, Temporal Cleansing, Wanderwine Farewell, and Unexpected Assistance. Pair these with Merfolk that want to become tapped, like Encumbered Regery, Pestered Wellguard, Silvergill Peddler, and Wanderbrine Preacher. Other cards that can tap our own creatures include Gravelgill Scoundrel, Meander's Guide, Springleaf Drum, and Wanderbrine Trapper. Cards that make multiple creatures, such as Silvergill Mentor and Klacken Festival, will be quite useful here. Keep in mind that creatures with vigilance can attack first and pay Convoke costs afterwards. Next is white-green Kithkin. Their mechanic is Kithkin entering the battlefield, trigger bonuses from your other Kithkin. Kind of awkwardly worded there by me, but that's what they do. Signpost uncommon, Thoughtweft Lieutenant is your green-white 2/2. When this or another Kithkin enters, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. We've got Eclipsed Kithkin as our uncommon that looks at the top 4, and our common hybrid card here is Wary Farmer. 1 green-white hybrid for a 3/3 Kithkin. At the beginning of your end step, if another creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, you surveil 1. So minor payoff there, but decent stats. White-green wants as many creatures entering as possible each turn. Klacken Festival is premium, providing 2 triggers plus an extra Kithkin trigger, as it's a kindred enchantment itself up front, and more triggers down the line if you can pay that 5 mana ability later in the game. Gold Meadow Nomad provides an additional trigger from the graveyard, and Personify will give you 2 triggers, as is blinking one of your creatures and making a changeling token. Flock Imposter resets a creature, and its changeling ability means it counts as a Kithkin itself. Some of the better enter the battlefield payoffs include Crossroads Watcher, Kinsbale Aspirant, Bristlebane Outrider, and Thoughtweft Charge. Other cards get better when you have Kithkin in play, such as Gallant Foul Knight, Mist Meadow Council, which gets a little bit cheaper, and of course, Thought Weft Imbuer, which counts how many Kithkin you have. Next is Blue-Red Elementals. Their mechanic is casting spells, not non-creature spells as we've seen in the past, but any spell, including creatures, spells with mana value 4 or greater. Our Signpost Uncommon is Twin Flame Travelers, 2 blue-red for a 3/3 flying elemental, and it doubles the triggers of other elementals you control. I've also putting Tanyufel Rhyme Speaker here, as it's clearly a build around for this deck. The 4 mana 2/4, when you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you draw a card. Our hybrid cards, we've got our Eclipsed Flamekin, and then at common, we've got Flaring Cinder, 1 blue-red hybrid, 3 total mana for a 3/2 elemental. When it enters, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Enraged Flamecaster, dealing 2 damage when you cast a spell with mana 4 or greater, and Cool Wrath Mystic, gaining +2/+0 and Vigilance. These are 2 minor payoffs for casting your 4 mana spells. Some of the better 4-cost spells to cast include Feed the Flames, 4 mana deal 5, Flamekin Guild Weaver, 4 mana 4/3 trample, makes a treasure, Kindle the Inner Flames, 4 mana copy spell that you can flash back, and Shine Striker, the 6 mana 3/3 flying vivid that draws cards. Spells with Convoke, such as Lofty Dreams, 5 mana enchantment, +2/+2 and flying and draws a card. Omni Changeling, Temporal Cleansing, and Unexpected Assistance. This 5 mana instant Convoke, draw 3, discard 1. Effectively cost a mana or 2 less than their cost if you can tap a couple of creatures for them, so that's a nice way to get some 4-cost spells happening. Look for ways to make additional mana, like Flame Braider, Feardock Core, which is a 3 mana artifact, has for a mana, and you can make it a creature later in the game, and Soulbright Seeker, which is a 1 mana 2/1, where if you can pump 3 mana into it, it gives you 4 mana back, which is kind of interesting. All right, next is Black-Red Goblins. The mechanic is Goblins dying. These poor goblins. Your Signpost Uncommon, Boggart Cursecrafter. It's black-red for the 2/3 Death Touch Goblin. Whenever another goblin you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. And Boggart Mischief, 2 and a black goblin enchantment. When it enters, you can blight 1 to make 2 goblin tokens, and whenever a goblin you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. We've got Eclipsed Boggart at uncommon that looks at the top 4. And then at common, we've got Chaos Spewer. This is 2 and a black-red hybrid for a 5/4 goblin. When it enters, you may pay 2. If you don't, you got to blight 2. So we're looking to attack our opponent and then kill off our own goblins once they outlive their usefulness. Instead of sacrifice, we have blight. What looks like a downside could actually be an upside on already great cards like Bogslither's Embrace, Cinder Strike, and Sourbread Auntie. There are many more solid blight cards, including Blighted Blackthorn, Burning Curiosity, which is sort of like a draw 3, which is pretty interesting. Dream Caesar, 4 mana 3/2 flying, blight 1, they discard. Gristle Glutton, 2 mana 1/3, you can tap it and blight 1 to rummage. Requiting Hex that we looked at already, Sting Slinger, and Warren Torchmaster, 2 mana 2/2. Each turn you can blight 1. And if you do, a creature gains haste until end of turn. Quite nice. Those are repeatable. A few of these are repeatable ways to blight, which is quite useful as well. For those who are feeling dangerous, there's also Gut Splitter Gang. Check that one out. Pretty cool. Luckily, our goblins are kind of on board with this plan with Bile Vile Boggart, Heirloom Auntie, and Mud Button Curse Tosser, giving bonuses when they die, along with Wretched Wretch, Sizzling Changeling, and also doing the same. And then Elder Auntie is an important one here, as it's the only common that makes an extra body, which is obviously pretty useful in these sacrifice-type decks. That's 3 mana for a 2/2 goblin, makes a 1/1 goblin token on entry. All right, next is Black-Green Elves. Mechanic is gives you a bonus for having elves in the graveyard, and sometimes also for elves dying. The Signpost uncommon is Morkont's Loyalist, 1 black-green for a 3/2 elf, pumps up your other elves, and when it dies, return another target elf card from your graveyard to your hand. The uncommon is Eclipsed Elf, which looks at the top 4, and the common hybrid card is Stoic Grove Guide, 4 and a black-green hybrid for a 5/4 elf, and you can pay 1 and a black-green hybrid, exile it from your graveyard to make a 2/2 elf token. So that's one that you would like to mill into your graveyard if you can, but if you have to cast it as a 5/4 later on in the game, that's not too bad either. There are payoffs for having an elf in the graveyard, including Creekwood Safe Right, which grows each turn, Dawnhand Eulogist, which mills you and drains them for 2, and Lissalana Dignitary, which turns on its 2-mana tap ability if there's an elf in your graveyard. Moon Vigil Adherents and Morkant's Eyes want you to have as many elves in the graveyard as possible. You'll achieve this by milling with cards like Scarblade Scout, Midnight Tilling, and Dawnhand Eulogist. There's also some synergy with Blight on cards like Blighted Blackthorn. That's the 5-mana 3/7 Treefolk. When it enters or attacks, you can Blight 2 to draw a card and lose a life. Bogslither's Embrace and Requiting Hex, as we may want our elves to die anyway, so slap a couple counters on them, get them in the graveyard, and go to town. Grave Shifter provides some card advantage and counts as an elf because it's a changeling. And Unbury can help us grind in the late game. This is 2 mana to return a creature from graveyard to hand, or 2 creatures if they share a creature type, which they should easily do in this deck. All right, so now we're getting into the lesser supported archetypes. So these ones don't actually have a multicolor Signpost uncommon like the other 5 do. And these will be drafted as their own decks less often, or maybe not at all, because they don't have those Signpost uncommons, and their themes tend to be useful as support packages to the main 5 decks that we just looked at. So we'll look at all of them here. This is blue-black Faeries. Voracious Tome Skimmer is blue-black hybrid, blue-black hybrid, blue-black hybrid for a 2/3 flying fairy. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, you may pay 1 life if you do draw a card. And at common, we've got another hybrid card. 1 and a blue-black hybrid. Mischievous Sneakling is a 2/2 changeling with flash. So the mechanic here is casting spells on the opponent's turn. Classic fairy shenanigans here. Nightmare Sower and Unwelcome Sprite are 2 more payoffs for casting spells on the opponent's turn, and Illusion Spinners is a solid fairy payoff. Any deck sporting a good package of blue or black instants, such as these ones on screen here, will be happy with a few fairies in the deck. There's likely not enough here for a dedicated blue-black Fairies deck without having really good rares to push you into it. White-Red Giants is next. The mechanic here is removing Blight counters. The uncommon is Hovel Hurler, 3 red-white hybrid for a 6/7 that enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. So it's entering as a 4/5. But you can pay red-white hybrid, and remove a counter from it to give target creature you control +1/+0, and flying until end of turn. So can push a lot of damage and can get quite big itself pretty quickly. And then we've got Feisty Spikeling. This is the common. This is 1 and a red-white hybrid for a 2/1 changeling, and it's got first strike on your turn. So just a solid creature to put in the white and red aggressive decks. Brambleback Brute is a good place to put Blight counters if you're in black-red Goblins. This is a 3-mana 4/5, but it enters with 2 -1 counters on it. You can pay 2 mana, remove a counter to make target creature unable to block. So a nice sort of aggro card there, and if you're blighting, then you get to use it multiple times. And then Moonlit Lamenter would be a great splash in a black-red deck, or alongside some of White's Blight spells. If you've got a package of cards like Everstrike's Gift, Pyrrhic Strike, and Spiral into Solitude, the latter 2 you're just playing anyways, then Moonlit Lamenter becomes really good there. That's the one that draws cards for you. If you happen to have a good package of giants or changelings, Boldweir Aggressor is pretty good here. This is 3 red for a 2/5 double strike giant and gives your other giants double strike, which includes your changelings. So there could be a nice aggressive deck that wants this. Again, not really enough to make your own white-red deck unless you've got rares, more of a support package for the other archetypes. White-black Treefolk is next. Reaping Willow is the uncommon. This is 1 white-black hybrid, white-black hybrid, white-black hybrid. 4 mana for a 3/6 lifelink Treefolk. Enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. So 4 mana, 1/4, which is kind of rough, but you could pay 1 and a white-black hybrid and remove 2 counters from it to return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that is quite a nice payoff there. And then you have a 3/6 lifelink, which is huge. At common, we've got a hybrid, 2 and a Prideful Feastling, 2 and a white-black hybrid for a 2/3 changeling with lifelink, just a solid little card there. And then another kind of signposty card here, Gnarlbark Elm, 2 and a black for a 3/4 Treefolk, enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. So it enters as a 1/2, which is pretty rough. But you can pay 3 mana, remove 2 counters from it to give target creature -2/-2. So really a payoff here for blighting onto your own creatures. So kind of plays very similarly to white-red in the sense that like it's good with packages of blight cards, but I think it's possible that there is a 2 or 3 color value mid-range deck in the Mardu space, the red, white, black space, looking for ways to repeatedly blight, such as Gristle Glutton, Gut Splitter Gang, Sting Slinger, Warren Torchmaster, onto creatures who can use the counters for value, the best of which would be Moonlit Lamenter, Reaping Willow, and Gnarlbark Elm. There's also a card called Lasting Tarfire, which might find a home in this deck. It's 2 mana enchantment at the beginning of each end step. If you put a counter on a creature, you deal 2 damage to your opponent. So it could be a pretty cool kind of mid-range value deck. We'll see. Next is Blue-Green Vivid. The mechanic is Vivid, which counts the number of colors among permanents you control. The uncommon is Glister Bairn. This is 5 mana, 2 and 3 green-blue hybrid for a 1/4 oof with Vivid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gets +X/+X, where X is your Vivid. And at common, we've got Chitinous Graspling, 3 and a green-blue hybrid for a 3/4 changeling with Reach. The best Vivid payoffs in blue and green are Luminolisk, which is a 4 mana 2/4 Death Touch that you gain life for your Vivid when it comes in. Prisma Basher, we already looked at. Rime Chill, it's a 7 mana instant that costs 1 less for your Vivid and taps up to 2 target creatures and stuns them, and you draw a card. And Shine Striker, the 6 mana 3/3 flying that draws cards. In other colors, if we're splashing, we get access to Explosive Prodigy, Kithkeeper, which is a 7 mana 3/3 that makes X Kithkin tokens when it comes in for your Vivid and can gain flying and other things. Shimmer Creep is a 5 mana 3/5 black creature with Menace and drains them for your Vivid. So these are all quite nice ones if you've got a high Vivid count. You really do want 3 or more, which is sort of the threshold for these Vivid cards being good. The Vivid payoffs work best as a package alongside hybrid mana cards that give your 2-color deck access to as many as 4 or 5 colors of permanents. But awkwardly, Glister Bairn doesn't work very well in this context as you're unlikely to be base green-blue. Therefore, having to pay green or blue for Glister Bairn is pretty challenging. There are some Vivid enablers, including Great Forest Druid, 2 mana 0/4 that taps for mana of any color. Foraging Wickermaw, which is a 2 mana 1/3 that surveils 1, and you can pay 1 to filter a mana and then change the color of the Wickermaw. And Shimmerwild's Growth, which enchants a land, adds extra mana, and turns the land a different color, which is pretty useful. So these can all change their color or fix mana for you. So as a result, I'm interested in trying a base green 5-color Vivid deck, but rather than being based on the traditional 5-color sort of formula of mana fixing, ramp, removal, and then bombs, this deck would be almost mono green, leaning heavily on the many green hybrid mana cards, as all of them pictured here, to get its colors on the battlefield, along with Wildvine Pummeler as a common payoff. This is 7 mana for a 6/5 reach trample, but costs 1 less to cast for each color among permanents you control. And then you've got Glister Baron, Luminolisk, and Prisma Basher as good on-color payoffs, and you could splash for others as needed, but you could have like a mana base of 13 or 14 forests and actually be super consistent and be triggering all of these vivid cards for 3, 4, maybe even 5 value. So pretty huge. Red-green Noggles is next. Your hybrid card is Noggle Robber. Signpost uncommon, I should say. 1 red-green hybrid, 3 mana for a 3/3. When it enters or dies, you get a treasure token. And at common, we've got Gangly Stompling. 2 in a red-green hybrid for a 4/2 changeling with trample. So the Noggles deck, psych, there's not actually a Noggles deck. I'm sure I got you real good there. Noggle Robber is just a good card. You're going to put it in any deck that can cast it. And Gangly Stompling is a solid card and can be a 21, 22, 23rd playable for you in a deck that wants it. That's it. There's nothing really going on here in terms of a red-green deck. All right. So that covers all the archetypes that I can see in this format. We're going to do my way too early projections for the archetype rankings here. At number 1, white, blue, Merfolk. Blue and white appear to be the strongest colors, and this deck gets access to the free mana that Convoke provides. So I think this will end up being the best deck in the format. White-green Kithkin is well supported, straightforward to build. I'm sure this will be the early win percentage leader, so look out for that one. And then in third place, I got black-red Goblins. Just because there's a ton of support, it feels like every black and red card supports this strategy. However, if the strategy isn't good, if blighting onto your own creatures is not good, then this deck's going to be really terrible. But I'm going to start out thinking that it's going to be pretty good. Black-green Elves is next. Well supported, just a solid deck. All the cards look pretty good. In fifth, I've got my mono-green Vivid Dream here as a cool off-ramp strategy that should be able to utilize underdrafted cards in the format. And Mardu Blight in 6th place here. A little bit underpowered, a little bit tricky to get going, but there's definitely some cool synergies there. And again, we'll maybe use some cards that most other decks don't want. And then in 7th place, Womp Womp, Blue-Red Elementals. Just feels under-supported to me, feels pretty clunky. But, I mean, if you get great rares, I'm sure it's going to be just fine. So, and then, while certain rares may push you into other color pairs that aren't listed here, there's not enough support for true archetypes in blue-black, white-red, red-green, so I haven't listed them here. Moving on to our general draft strategy. Pack 1, picks 1 through 3. We're going to take the best card. Monocolored cards will leave us more open going forward. That includes the hybrid cards, which can act as monocolored cards in multiple decks, which is quite powerful. Picks 4 through 8, we're going to continue to take the best card in the pack. We may have cards in multiple colors, and that's okay. We're going to start to form a picture of what colors are being passed to us. This is known as reading signals. For example, if we see a few solid white cards, picks 4 through 8, there's a good chance the players to our right are not drafting white. This is known as white being open. This means we can reasonably expect to see good white cards in pack 3, as well as those same players will be passing to us again. We may also see a late signpost uncommon, which could indicate its color pair may be available. So we're trying to stick to one color if possible. A few off colors are okay. We're prioritizing cheaper cards as they're a bit more flexible. And then basically we're balancing, are we trying to stick to our early picks? Well, the better they are, the more we want to stick to them. The worse they are, the more we want to take chances on other colors. Pay special attention to picks 9 through 14. This is known as the wheel. These are the cards that no one at the table wanted. The pack has gone all the way around the table and you're seeing it again. If we're seeing several playable cards of one color, it's possible that no one else at the table is drafting that color, and we should strongly consider moving in. By the end of pack 1, we've identified our main color, hopefully. This is the color we have the most quality cards of, or is the most open, and hopefully both. Stay as close to one color as possible will leave us with more options going forward. Packs 2 and 3, we're going to continue to take the powerful cards we see of our main color where possible, and let the good cards we open or get past determine our secondary color and final archetype. Pay special attention to pack direction. Not everybody knows about this, especially folks who have only ever drafted online, but the packs go to the left in pack 1, to the right in pack 2, to the left in pack 3, although this diagram is a little bit confusing in that regard. So the packs are moving opposite direction in pack 2, which means the signals can be completely different. It's normal not to see as many cards of our main color in pack 2, so don't panic. Pack 3 is passed to the left once again, and we will be rewarded for staying the course. All right, let's look at my usual Where Does It Belong segment. Is a little bit different actually in this format. Since there's only really 5 main decks, this doesn't carry as much weight. You're actually more willing to take a committal specific deck specific card early in the draft, as it's really not hamstringing you as bad as it normally would. But if we look at 2 powerful red uncommons here, we've got Seer, 2 mana, deal 4. You're going to play this in either of the red decks. Black-red Goblins or red-blue Elementals are going to like this card just fine, whereas Sourbred, Auntie, 2 red-red, 4/3, Blight 2, make 2 black and red Goblin tokens. Only good in Goblins, right? Elementals don't want this at all. So, just be cognizant of that as you're going through your draft. And I think in this format, it's going to be especially important to be drafting cards that fit in the same deck as each other. It's going to be pretty straightforward with the creature types, but just something to keep an eye on. Deck building tips: play 2 colors. Again, I think this is going to be a pretty tight 2-color format, so it shouldn't be too tough there. But if you're going to splash, you need to have fixing involving wilds or something else that's giving you sources of that color. You do not want to play a mana base that's got like 7 sources of green, 7 forests, 7 plains, and then like 3 islands. That's really, really bad. So please don't do that. Play 17 lands. A deck with no cards that cost more than 4 can play 16 lands. So you might see this in the Kithkin decks, maybe in the Goblin decks, probably just the Kithkins. Play a low curve. Lots of cheap cards, few expensive cards. And for those of you attending a pre-release, cards that are going to be a bit better in sealed deck, I want to shout out the 2 land cycling cards, Kulrath Zealot and Strato Soarer. These are nice big blue and red creatures, and they have basic land cycling for 1, and then their color of mana. You discard them to search for any basic land card. We haven't really seen this recently. It's usually been tied to the color of the creature, but these can get you any land and put it into your hand. So these are going to be pretty huge for fixing you, and then like later in the game, they're an effective threat. Sealed tends to be a bit slower, a bit more focused on the late game. And then cards like Unforgiving Aim. This is 3 mana in green for an instant that can destroy a creature with flying or make a 2/2 or destroy an enchantment. Cards like this that can take down big expensive rares are pretty useful and sometimes worth main decking. Definitely worth pulling to the front of your sideboard in case your opponent's got a couple of big nasty flyers to take care of. All right. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please click like, click subscribe, leave a comment, questions, feedback. All that stuff is super appreciated. Helps the channel grow. Let me know what you want to see. Good luck in your drafts. As always, you can reach me directly if you want to at howtodraftmtg@gmail.com. Best of luck. We will see you very soon. Bye for now.